This is the Skyler Jarvis Show!
What's up, everybody? This is the Skyler Jarvis Show. I'm your host, Skyler. It's been a minute. It has been a minute since I have done a podcast. There's been a lot of stuff going on in my personal life. That's a long story, man. That is a long story. But I got a special guest. I got a very, very, very special guest on this podcast. Say hello to Nuris Coronado. Dag now. Can't even get your name right.
Yep.
How you
everybody.
doing?
I'm good.
So, you've been blind since birth, right?
Yes.
Yeah. That's something we have in common right there. So, my question for you is like, what was life growing up blind?
Well, it was like any normal person would be. Like, I was able to do everything any kid would do. Play outside, anything that was interactive, basically. And I was treated as a normal individual, even though I didn't have sight.
Most of the time for me, it was like I was treated normal by the teachers, but some of the students, you really started to see the disconnect. Like I was the weird blind guy. The just weird. I did not fit in like normally. There was some people that, especially when I started getting into the middle school, that especially started, making me aware of the gap, making me aware of the difference between blind and sighted people. They started not wanting me to go to field trips unless I had a chaperone. They would try to cheat me out of going to field trips, and especially in 7th grade. But it was especially during the middle school years. It was real hard for me, until I moved to GMS, and that it's a blind school in Raleigh, and that's basically where I learned a lot of stuff. I matured twice as much as I would have if I would have been in high school in 4 years, because it was my high school years. So, did you ever go to any blind school, or were you just mainstreamed all the way through?
As a kid, I went to one blind school, and then after that, all the schools I went to were middle school and high school. Those were regular schools.
What was that like for you?
It was interesting, like, especially when I got to middle school and high school. It was interesting to be around a place where there were more sighted people than, blind at the time. But I did really well.
That's good. That's good. And you were treated good? Staff and students, everything?
Yeah, everybody treated me nicely up there.
That is good. That is wonderful. I've had a lot of people, they've had different experiences. Some just get treated horribly. Some get treated like, some get treated like the rest. Like the rest of the people there. It just depends on, I guess the area and the school, really, and who gets involved.
Exactly.
So, what was life like when you got out of school What was adjusting to everyday life like?
It wasn't that difficult for me, like, 'cause I had already learned a lot of things back then. So when I was in school, so it made it a lot easier, especially because I was trained properly by instructors in a lot of ways on different life challenges.
That's good. That's good. And I forgot to ask though. How long were you in the blind school? You said you was in there for the first few years. Was it elementary school?
Yeah, I started from elementary up to when I reached like 8th grade.
Okay, so when you reached 8th grade, you transferred to a high school, to a
Yep.
regular high school. Okay, okay, I see. I see. So you had quite a bit of experience from being in a blind school. So whenever you transferred to a public school, you didn't really, you could fit in with everybody pretty much.
Yeah, there wasn't really much of a difference when that happened.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can see that. I can really see that now. I'm glad I asked because that made a lot of the earlier stuff make sense. So you were in a blind school for the first 8 years.
Yep.
So you would have got a ton of experience from there, and then you just carried it over to the public school.
Exactly.
So for me, I didn't have that opportunity. You got very lucky in that regard because I was mainstreamed for the first 8 years, and then had to spent the last 4 at GMS. So that was two drastically different outcomes. You know.
Exactly. Yep. I get it.
So, what are some of the stuff you like doing in your free time?
Reading audiobooks, playing piano, listening to music. Basically anything that's fun. And I love bowling. That's my main favorite thing to do.
Oh, bowling. We used to go at GMS at summer camp. There was the full time school, and then there was summer camp. And I'd been to summer camp way before I went to went to school down there. So we would go bowling every year. And man, they let me use them. Oh gosh, them little things you put in the middle of the thing, in the middle of the lane, and you roll the ball on that one.
Yeah.
That's how I
really
used
fun.
to do it. Yeah, I got pretty good too. That one time I think I got like 200 just by doing that. I think that's considered cheating though.
Yeah. People might
Daggone it,
consider
it
that
was
cheating.
fun. It was fun.
Yeah.
So, what were some of the experiences that you had in being in blind school? What was the main thing that you liked about it?
One thing was being, you know, independent with a lot of things you did in school, like, and you had really great teachers too that would teach you
Oh,
different
for
things you
sure.
needed to learn.
For
So it
sure.
was very awesome. And they were very patient too, which is one thing I really enjoyed in those types of
Very
schools.
patient, especially with somebody like me, just quick tempered. Especially with somebody like me. So I agree with you there. Like all the things you said, I could 100% agree with you on. I just honestly wish I got a little bit more experience with it because, the independent living aspect, especially in those earlier years, not
Exactly.
not a lot of people were really showing me. They'd show me, and then if I didn't get it right, they'd walk away. So I didn't really get that in my early years, and if I would have went to school at GMS, I would have got them probably earlier. And even been better at it than I am now, honestly. So you got plenty of that experience. Uh, what was some of your favorite activities to do down there?
Well, as a kid in school and being blind, I enjoyed like arts and crafts or things that were really fun and challenging. And I enjoyed reading books as well. As a kid, it was really fun.
You want to know something? Uh, the book player, like before the book player came out, I really didn't care about reading. I wouldn't have cared if I didn't read a chapter. I wouldn't have cared if I didn't read a chapter book in my entire life. Let's just say that. And then came the digital book players. Like I would get tapes in the mail before that, and I would read them, but I wouldn't really pay attention to them.
Yeah, that can happen to certain people too. Like you can get more interested later on
And
when
then,
you get introduced to new devices.
especially that book play, like that book player was revolutionary for us because it talked. You got it free from the library for the blind. They just mailed it to you. So, oh my gosh, having one of them, like I would back then. I didn't, we didn't have smartphones, or they were out at the time, but our family did not have them. My mom was the only one that really had a smartphone. So at the time, those cartridges meant everything.
Oh yeah, they did.
So I did a demonstration of the digital talking book player for those of you guys who are listening to the podcast. I did a demonstration on the YouTube channel. We'll put it in the link in the description of the YouTube video. So yeah, check that out. And that was pretty much the catalyst for me. It set everything in motion about me reading. Like I would get these books in the mail, and every time I remember, I was like, man, I hope they send me longer books. Send me longer books. Send me longer books. And whenever I'd get something that was like 14 hours or something, I'd be like, yes, this is something I can listen to for a while,
Exactly.
So I started getting into longer books that way. Shout out Miss Dubow. She introduced me to a lot of technology. A lot. But so you liked reading from an early age because you were exposed to a lot of that technology, right?
Actually, even before all that technology was out, like they had. You would just have to go to a library and check out a braille book and read it yourself.
Yes. I've always encouraged that if you got a braille book.
And I still encourage that to people. Like, continue reading your braille books or however you read in braille because it'll keep enhancing your skills.
Very much so, and it'll keep you on your toes when somebody asks you about Braille. That's what I've learned over the years. Like I know most of the Braille code by muscle memory. You know, just I know them by heart, but
Yep, same here.
I couldn't tell you what dots they were, and that just I haven't really had a Braille writer, so now that I have this e-reader, I'm reading stuff on it, so it's helping in that regard.
Very true.
So, what are some of the pros of being blind? Like, what do you really enjoy about being blind?
One thing would be movies with audio description. That's my main favorite.
Oh, yes. The thing every sighted person wants to turn off.
Yeah.
Immediately.
I've been there before. Or they want to turn off the screen reader if you use a phone or a talking device.
Yeah, so whenever you look up how to turn it on, all you get is how to turn it off.
Yeah, exactly.
You remember that?
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Oh. But it's amazing that there's a lot of things you can enjoy even when you are blind, and also like one of the second things I like is mainly the ability to read in Braille, because if I was sighted, I wouldn't be able to read that way. So,
Well, if a sighted person really studied, they could.
right.
Like, I really think if the parents are learning with the kids, then they can proofread what their kid is doing. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
See, that's where a lot of blind people get away with, like, they can write Braille notes and, like, you don't even know what it means. You don't even, you wouldn't know if I wrote a hate letter about you.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I was just using that for an example, but like your kid, if your kid is blind and you aren't learning Braille with them, and you can help them out with it. You can't help them out with homework. You can, but like not like you can do. And then, you can be a proofreader. Make sure they're getting everything right. Like my mama was hands-on. She was there learning the Braille code. She had a cheat sheet she would use, but she would learn it, and she would type me little notes and stuff. How was that for you growing up?
Well, my parents didn't get the chance to learn the Braille code with me, so I basically had to face the challenge of having to learn all that stuff myself. Like if I got an assignment, and for instance, if it was like a word puzzle, I had to figure out how to do that myself.
Yeah. That must have been hard.
Sometimes I got the words right, sometimes I didn't. So it was just a hit and miss in that area.
I'm not going to lie. In my elementary years and my middle school years, I really did not take my education that seriously. Because I wasn't, there was things that I had, and there was experiences I got to have at public school that I will always cherish. But there are some things that just like made it impossible to be a blind person in the school, and like it was a pretty big school. Like it wasn't like overly humongous, but it was big enough to where you had to like carry the braille writer from one end of the school to the other. So it kind of got tedious at some points. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And then people complaining about your braille writer because it was too loud, and I'm like, this is the only way I can do it.
Yep, I had to face that as a challenge as well. And I had to carry my own braille writer to classes. And sometimes they would break because you'd end up dropping them on the floor by accident or something.
Or you'd end up. I had a braille note Apex, so the space bar would always come off of mine. And then they'd have to ship it back and get it fixed, and then I'd get it back, and then I'd use the braille note for a while, and then they could, I put it on the monitor, and they could monitor what I was doing. And then the space bar broke, and then the same thing happened again.
Yep, I faced that challenge. After so many usages, one of my braille writers broke that way. And we never were able to repair it.
I've had my braille writer since I was like in kindergarten or first grade. I think it was first grade, because I kept borrowing Miss Dubal's braille writer. But I didn't really take it. I did not really take my education seriously in the first 8 years of my schooling. First 9-10 years, to be honest with you, because GMS, I was still kind of getting used to being, not having that excuse, to just not care anymore.
Exactly.
That was my personal experience, because the first 8 years, like, I just thought school was something I went and did during the day. I didn't really have a choice about it, but I went and done it anyway. And then when I went to GMS, all that really changed, because I enjoyed being there. I was with people that was like me, that was blind. Some of them was born blind. Some of them was at different ages, but man, it's been a journey. It's been a journey for me.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it has, and for me too. I mean, there were a lot of things I had to face as well, having blindness. So
Now, I've talked about some of my drawbacks. What are some of yours of being blind?
one was I had to have someone assist me from class to class. So
Yes, that was one for me too.
I had to be put in the back of the room so I wouldn't make a lot of noise or, things like
Oh,
that. Or if they were taking notes or something, they'd send you to a separate room. Or if you had a test exam, they'd send you to separate rooms
oh
away
my
from all the rest
gosh,
of the students so you wouldn't distract them if the assistant had to read to you or something.
man, that was some of the same stuff I went through. Like, if I was to say any more, it would just not do it any justice. Honestly, you said everything I could say in a few sentences.
Exactly.
That is something a lot of people have faced especially in school. Is being put in the back of the room, and that was That was a big one for me, especially in 7th grade. Everybody, I wanted to be with everybody else, but I just simply couldn't because they wouldn't let me. There were some teachers that would, um, there were some teachers that did let me sit with everybody else, but there were some that just treated me like, you're not supposed to be here. What are you doing here? They would talk to me, but they would not, behind the scenes, they'd kind of be trying to do something to, maybe not get me on a field trip or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yep,
They started.
exactly.
Did you ever have that happen?
No, actually, I was fortunate to go to many field trips and stuff like that. And it was very interesting.
That's good. What was your favorite field trip out of all of them?
That would be when we went to this science place and they showed people the solar system, how it felt, as a tactile place. It was very interesting to see that.
I bet it was for you, especially since they had everything tactile.
Right, yeah, it was very awesome.
Mine would honestly have to be Washington D.C. Washington D.C. or Raleigh. Washington D.C. because we really challenged ourselves. Me and Mama, we was just like, keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. We're gonna do this, and we got through it, and it was a great time too. That was the first time I saw FYE. I got a Jay-Z CD there that I still have today. And we went and seen the Lincoln Monument. The Lincoln Monument was just breathtaking. I'm telling you. And I gotta mention this, but the Observatory Center, especially that first time where I got peed on by a lion. Yeah.
That's very cool.
Oh, it's very cool. I got peed on.
No, it's cool, the experiences you had.
Oh, I was about to say. Oh,
No, it's
man.
not cool getting peed on, no.
Oh, Nuris. Oh. I love conversating with you.
Me too, it's very awesome.
So, are there any more of, while we're on field trips, are there any more that you really liked?
One of them was when we went to a farm back in elementary school and we got to feel a bunch of animals. We went for hay rides. It was a great experience.
Oh, the hay rides are always fun. Hay rides are always fun. What did you ever go to somewhere where you went in this big place and there was a bunch of corn on the ground?
Not really.
And you felt like corn not on the cob, and then you dig around and then you find a cob.
No, that we didn't do. I wish we would have, though. That would have sounded pretty interesting.
Huh. I remember doing that in elementary school.
mean, one of the best things was holding a sheep in your hand. Like, that felt really cool. Like,
Yeah, and getting to feel
just the
like
touch of that, I was like, wow, this is amazing.
all
for
the
me.
animal fur. Yeah, that would be fun. I have had those experiences. Did y'all ever have the Special Olympics where y'all are at?
Speaking of that, it's funny you mentioned that. We had that in school, and I ended up winning first place for running in that Olympic thing that we did.
Oh, nice.
And they gave me a trophy with a ribbon, which I still have to this day. That's another good memory I had.
Wow. What about? Oh my gosh, I had a brain fart. I was getting ready to ask you. I daggone it, I was getting ready to ask you something else. But it's coming. Dagnabbit. Cricket, cricket. Cricket, cricket. We need the sound effects, Carson. Oh boy. I had a complete daggone brain fart. Dagnabbit. Ah! Is there anything else you would like to say while you're on this podcast?
I believe that, one other thing that most blind people have to face is traveling with a cane. And that can be a challenge to some that are like us, because depending on how good they have their travel skills and things like that,
Yeah.
it can be challenging. Or you run the risk of, say, if you're walking somewhere and a car doesn't see you, run the risk of someone hitting your cane or running into it.
Yeah. I've heard about these canes with GPSs called the WeWalk cane. I really want to get my hands on one of them one of these days.
Yeah, me too. Those are really good canes.
Then I could just walk sidewalks and figure out where I'm going in my hometown, because I don't know one store from the next.
Right.
Just walk around the sidewalks and get to know my town.
Yeah, that's one good thing you can do with those canes.
So, I think this is going to conclude today's podcast. Nuris, is there anything else you'd like to say?
It's been great being on this podcast, and I look forward to being on here a lot more often as well.
Alrighty. So, that concludes today's podcast. Without further ado, this is Skyler Jarvis and Nuris Coronado signing off. Peace!